Hello, everyone. This is Monica with WUSATA. Thank you for joining today. We're just seeing everybody pop on right now. I'm going to start here in about 2 or 3 minutes. Just wanted to do a quick welcome before we really get the ball rolling. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my video and mute until about 10 o'clock, and then we will go ahead and move forward. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today on the WUSATA FundMatch webinar. I really appreciate you all taking the time to join us. We do have a few companies that are still logging in, but we'll go ahead and just do some general introductions. My name is Monica Quinnett. I am the Outreach and Communications Coordinator for WUSATA. I've been with WUSATA for just over 3 years now, so I really am that first point of contact for new companies joining WUSATA, and I try to provide them with all the necessary information to be successful with WUSATA and our programs. I do have Josh Eddy on the call today as well. He is going to take a few moments before we get started into the presentation and share some words with us. So go ahead, Josh.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Monica, and good morning, everyone. It's good to see some familiar names, and I wish I could see some familiar faces. Again, this is such a great opportunity. If you're not familiar with WUSATA, the Western United States Agricultural Trade Association, or if you are familiar with it, definitely kind of reviewing the programs and services that this organization has to provide to you as succeed both internationally and domestically. While this program that we're going to be discussing today focuses a lot on international sales, international exports, there are opportunities specifically within trade shows to be able to apply that for some domestic audiences. So it is a very good program to kind of understand, and one of the best programs that are out there to provide kind of direct assistance to companies. And I think given the current times with all of us in our new virtual world, virtual activities, and how we're working with our customers both domestically and overseas, seeing how best we can utilize this program to help us assist and expand export sales is going to be critical. And I think just the awareness of the program, what the program can do, and how we as the state of California and WUSATA can best assist you is what we're here to do. And so this is really kind of an opportunity to learn about the program. Both Monica and I are open to any questions you have about the program. We're willing to dive deep and answer anything that you have in regards to kind of international sales or export certification, questions like that we can handle as well. But really this opportunity and this meeting is for you, and it's for opportunity for you to learn and to take away everything that you can from the program. So thank you again so much for being here. We look forward to this presentation. I'd like to thank WUSATA for being such a great partner and helping us with this program as well. So Monica, I'll turn it back to you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Josh. Those were very kind words, and we appreciate CDFA immensely as well. And like Josh said, this really is a good opportunity, especially given the pandemic, to learn about what is available to you to assist you with your exporting efforts. And WUSATA is a really it's a very good program. It's an underutilized program. So hopefully with the information I have to provide you today will give you a better understanding how to take advantage of the resources that are available to you and help you be successful in your exporting efforts. So what we'll cover today is I'll do a kind of a general overview of who WUSATA is, and then we'll go into all of our programs. We'll talk about our Global Connect program, our export education, and then more heavily, we will be focused on the FundMatch program. That is why you were all signed up today, is to learn about FundMatch. So why don't we go ahead and get started. One of the first questions that we get answered by new companies coming into WUSATA is why export? And we answer this in kind of a multitude of ways, but looking at our domestic supply, currently the productivity of the U.S. agriculture is growing faster than the domestic demand. So in other words, we're really producing more than we can consume. And so for those innovative entrepreneurial agribusinesses, exporting opens up attainable avenues for growth and stability. And then you couple that with the global population boom. In particular, the middle class population is growing at an exponential rate globally. So looking at the USDA estimates, they suspect that China's middle class population is going to be 4 times the entire size of the U.S. population by 2030, which is only 10 years away. So you have this increase in middle class population, therefore you have an increase in disposable income. So consumers in China and the rest of the world, for that matter, are going to start seeking out new tastes, new innovations. And what's really important to note here is that foods from the U.S. really have a strong reputation internationally for being high quality, safe, and consistent. So this equates to opportunity. Looking back at 2019, the value of U.S. agricultural exports was $137 billion, and the agricultural trade efforts have exceeded an incredible $703 billion over the last 5 years. So numbers really point to that economic potential for the U.S. food and agricultural exports around the world. So opportunities really are plentiful right now. And for that small to medium-sized agribusiness, now's a good time to introduce your products to the international markets, become established as a familiar and trusted brand. Obviously, when you have these opportunities, it's going to be coupled with challenges, whether or not they're real or perceived. So who is, who's going to want to buy my product? How am I going to contact those buyers? Is my business too small for exporting? So, these questions you may have already been asking yourself. Understand that the opportunity really in exporting can be tremendous. And that decision to go global is not really an easy one to take, and nor is it something that you should take lightly. So that's where WUSATA comes in. We are going to help you launch that successful exporting program by providing education, resources, and connections. So kind of a snapshot of who WUSATA is. We're an independent nonprofit trade association. We work very closely with the 13 Western states, American Samoa, and the USDA to help agribusinesses export their products overseas. We've been dedicated to exporting for 40 years. This is our 40th anniversary this year. How our funding comes through to our programs is through ultimately the Farm Bill, but through what's called the USDA's Market Access Program. And this program is designed to support those overseas marketing and promotional activities by U.S. companies. And we are one of about 70 other market access program cooperators. Some of the other cooperators would include the Brewers Association, Organic Trade Association, U.S. Meat Export Federation. There's the Wine Institute in California. I'm sure some of you are familiar with that organization. There's the Washington Apple Commission. But we're all here to help U.S. agribusinesses with their exporting efforts. We specifically use MAP funding to support companies through the West, through all stages of exporting. We have a global network of partners and resources that would include our in-country trade representatives, the agricultural trade offices around the world, we refer to them as our ATOs, and then the agricultural marketing divisions of our member states, and that's where Josh comes in. So I refer a lot of companies to Josh to help facilitate trade where I am not an expert in all things trade at all. I am very much an expert in what WUSATA has to offer, so anything that's outside my purview, I make that introduction to the state so they can step in and assist you. But above all, we advocate for you through education, support, introductions, and then financial assistance. Here is a look at our member states. So our members are the 13 Western State Departments of Agriculture and American Samoa, and again, we refer to them as our members. The companies that are in our programs are called our participants. We are not a government agency, but we're very closely linked to the state and federal departments of agriculture, and we have very unique relationships. So we really have a broad bandwidth to deliver our services to you, often in conjunction with one or more of our member states. So as I mentioned, each state has that agricultural marketing division. Josh is going to be a great resource for you moving forward, helping you with market research, assistance with overcoming trade barriers, importantly, connections. So making sure that you stay in communication with your State Department of Agriculture is going to be extremely beneficial as you move forward through our programs. Looking at our participants, so we have a very diverse group of companies that come in and take advantage of our programs. We have hundreds coming in annually, but the top industries that would be represented in our companies would be consumer-ready products. The majority of our companies fall into that category at about 86%. The next category would be ingredients, and about 10% of our participants fall into that category. And then lastly, we have 4% in the feed, forage, and other category. There was a question previously on a slide about, is my company too small to fit in with WUSATA programs and for exporting? Just know that over 90% of our participants have 10 or fewer employees, oftentimes just 1 or 2 employees that are taking advantage of our programs and do really well. So we really have designed the programs to be beneficial for the smaller business. That was the intent in creating this program. Here's a look at the top 5 markets reached by our U.S. suppliers. The top 5 markets would be China, Europe, Japan, Southeast Asia, and Korea. So we can help get you to one of those destinations or one of the other pinpoints on the map that you can see here. Looking at our results from 2019, we had 41 facilitated trade activities through WUSATA, 500 participating U.S. exporters, and nearly 17,000 buyer-to-seller introductions, and $585 million in sales from our participating companies, which I think is pretty fantastic. And how we gather all this information is through our survey collection. So when you start participating in the program, with our Global Connect program, you'll be asked to complete surveys after you participate in one of the activities immediately following, and then 6 months later to capture any results of that meeting, hoping that we've made some sales. That's the goal. And then when you participate in FundMatch, there will be a survey that you'll complete at the end of the program year. All of this information, just so you're aware, we're not going to be sharing your individual sales or your proprietary information. It's always going to be shared in aggregate format, as you can see here on this slide. But it's used to help continue the program funding. We share with USDA, FAS to show that it's a viable program and that we can secure those future funds. So to maximize your benefits, make sure you take advantage of all 3 program tracks, the Global Connect, FundMatch, and Export Education. Oftentimes they can work in conjunction with one another. You've already created your accounts, which is a great step moving forward with participation, but just take the time to get to know what's available on your MyWUSATA account. If you do have questions navigating it, please don't hesitate to reach out. We are trying to update it regularly, make sure that we have relevant content. We do have access to webinars, market research that we're leading on there, trade leads. So if you ever have any concerns or questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me directly, and I can help you navigate that. So on to our actual program. So we work on what we call a three-pillared approach. That first pillar would be our export education. So we help companies learn about the benefits of exporting and how to gain access to valuable market research through consumer insights and through webinars and seminars. We have tried to mostly build this program to be a way to learn about how you can gain access to that specific market research, making those connections where needed. One of the really great resources that we have access to is a database called Euromonitor International. And if you want to contact me after the webinar and send me a quick email, I can go in and pull a report for you based on your company HS codes. And it's that product focus from when you created your WUSATA account. And I can show you the top foreign markets that current U.S. companies are exporting similar products to. Another really great resource to be aware of is the USDA has a lot of really useful information available on their website. And I can, in my follow-up email, I'll make sure that you all have these links as well, which would be access to the agricultural trade offices around the world. It's always good to take advantage of that resource. It's your taxpayer dollars at work again, making sure to connect with them because they can provide market research for you as well. If you're traveling to that country, you'll need to make sure to send in a travel notification. So again, being connected with them is very helpful. And then the USDA also has export guides available and gains reports where you can learn about labeling laws and the different certifications that are required. But if you ever have a new company as well, or excuse me, not a new company, a new employee within your company, you can always have them sign up for a one-on-one consultation with me as well. I can give them a good program overview. But the whole design is to help you understand our programs, how they work forward, and then being able to provide those introductions as well. Now on to our next pillar. This is our Connect pillar, Global Connect, where we're going to get you in front of those international buyers through trade shows and trade missions. We provide a range of trade activities, typically at low cost or discounted rates. They're designed to connect the U.S. supplier with the foreign buyer. And obviously, given the pandemic, things have shifted a bit from, I should say more than a bit. They've shifted quite a bit because of the need to go into a virtual format, and that's something that we are navigating. We've offered some virtual missions, but when things are up and running again, we will offer those inbound and outbound trade missions, our presence at international trade shows. All you need to do is register. We do all the legwork and researching and planning the trade activities with our state members to target markets all around the world, and then you have that added benefit of working directly with Josh if it's a mission that he's working on. And if you're working or attending a mission that falls outside of your state, you're more than welcome to obviously register for that activity and work with that project manager as well. But as you're all headquartered in the WUSATA region, which is California is part of our region, you can register for any of the activities that we have on our website. Here is a snapshot of a handful of the trade shows, international trade shows that we would typically have a presence at. What we would do is purchase anywhere from 10 to 40 trade show booths and have a WUSATA pavilion within the larger USA pavilion. The benefit of registering through WUSATA instead of going through the trade show organizers, we can offer some additional perks such as interpreters on the trade show floor, one-on-one meetings that could be set up through our contractor. We can occasionally offer early bird discounts. So it's never going to be more expensive to register through us than through the trade show organizer, but then you get that added benefit of the interpreters and so on. These trade shows do sell out quickly, so if it is an area of interest for your organization, make sure that you pay attention to the registration dates so that way you can secure your booth space in time. Here is a look at our trade missions. So like I mentioned earlier, we kind of shifted away from the face-to-face missions due to the pandemic, but I know that they will be up and running again once all of this has passed. But let's take a look at the outbound trade missions first. This is where we are going to coordinate activities for the U.S. supplier to travel internationally to a particular country market, where you're going to have that opportunity to meet one-on-one with those pre-qualified international buyers, distributors, wholesalers. Oftentimes, the ATO representative will be there as well. And you have that opportunity to learn about the foreign region while you're there, because we could include a retail market and food service tour or receptions with government officials. Participation fees for the outbound trade mission are very cost effective when you're comparing it to an international trade show, for example. That could be the upwards of $30,000 when you take in all of the expenses. And for our outbound trade missions, it ranges anywhere from, I'd say, around $250 to $500 to register for. Oftentimes it does include the hotel, which is nice. This is an opportunity where you could also take advantage of FundMatch, because the majority of our outbound missions, I should say, would be eligible for reimbursements for your travel, which would be very helpful. Now, looking at our inbound trade missions, this is essentially the reverse, where we're going to bring the international buyers to the WUSATA region, and we'll have those buying missions. You have that opportunity, again, to sit down one-on-one with the individual buyers that we bring in, usually between, I would say, 6 to 8 buyers per country market. And as you can see on the slide, we'll have a conference room, and you'll have your table set up. It's kind of like a mini trade show booth, if you will, and have about, I'd say 25 minutes or so with each buyer. And you can correct me if I'm wrong on that, Josh.
No, that's correct.
No, that's good. Okay, good. I've only been to about 2 of them, so I just want to make sure that I'm giving the correct time parameters. So with the inbound trade missions, what's really fantastic about these is, number one, you don't have to go very far. So it's very cost effective, especially for the small business who has limited resources. The registration fees for these rate typically between $15 and $25 to register for. Sometimes they're even complimentary. And then you only have to get to the activity. So if it's in California, that's fantastic. You don't have to travel very far. If it's in Seattle, then it is your responsibility to get to Seattle and provide for your own accommodations while you're there. But again, when you're comparing that to those international trade shows, it's quite cost effective, where you can get in front of those international buyers without having to have too much of an expense.
And Monica, if I could add also on that. So with COVID, we have switched, as Monica mentioned, to a variety of virtual activities as well. So in supplementing kind of what our traditional inbound missions have been and outbound missions, we are doing some virtual events, and quite soon, WUSATA will be releasing not only kind of virtual meeting opportunities with Korea, Southeast Asia, and Japan, and we also have a Chilean and South America kind of program as well. So it gives kind of taking that to a virtual level to kind of be able to meet again with buyers and suppliers and make kind of those matchmaking meetings.
Excellent. Thank you, Josh, for adding more to that. I appreciate that. So these missions are all going to be available from our event search page. So go ahead and take a look at that and see what we have coming up. We have, I believe, and forgive me for not looking in advance, but the 2021 program year should be up, at least showing what we're going to be offering. If not, it will be coming very soon, so that way you can see how to plan appropriately for next year. But if you ever have a specific question about a trade mission, it's always good to log into your WUSATA account, go ahead and click on the name of the activity that you're interested in, and it'll open up the activity page. And then the project manager contact information will be housed on the right-hand side. So it's always best to communicate directly with the project manager for these missions, because they're going to be the ones that have all of the details about the buyers that are coming in, the logistics behind it. If it's a good fit for your product, that's really a good conversation to have with the project managers to identify if this is going to be a good mission for you to attend. But if you, again, have any questions navigating this, please feel free to contact me directly. Let's go ahead to the next one, trade leads. Now, trade leads are a benefit to our participants in the way that they're free. You didn't have to do anything other than creating your WUSATA account. And a trade lead, if you're not familiar, is a time-sensitive request that we received from a foreign buyer looking to source a U.S. product. So when that request comes in, and this is a new function that we just launched here recently, and I'm super excited, you will now receive an email notification fantastic. We're super excited about it. When a trade lead comes in that matches your HS code. So again, it's based on the HS codes from when you created your WUSATA account. So it's always very good to go back in and just adjust your HS codes, that product focus, to make sure that it does capture truly what your products are. And then if you do have any questions about that, you can always contact me too, and we can work through that together. But it's a virtual matchmaking, if you will. You really didn't have to do anything. Again, just creating that WUSATA account, and when the trade lead comes in, you'll be notified via email. It'll also show a notification on your dashboard when it says, "Welcome back, Monica," on your WUSATA account. There's a tile that says trade lead, and there'll be a little orange notification circle on there. Simply click on the tile, it'll open up a new page, and it'll have all the contact information for that buyer. And then it's just up to you to reach out. We do light vetting, but it is to the benefit of you to make sure you do your due diligence in continuing that vetting process as well. But it's right at your fingertips, and just if you see that orange notification, go ahead and click on that tile. Now we're at the meat of our presentation. So our last pillar, that compete pillar, our FundMatch program that's providing those qualifying U.S. companies with the 50% cost reimbursement for eligible marketing and promotional activities. So looking back at 2019, we had about 245 companies take advantage of the program. We were really hoping to meet that 250, maybe next year, because this year is kind of 2020 is a wash. We'll just throw that out the door. But companies last year enjoyed a 95-to-1 return on investment, which is pretty fantastic. And there was about 66 companies that, because of their participation in FundMatch, saw an increase in their export sales, which is wonderful as well. Here's a look at the guide. So currently, if you go onto the website, you will know, you'll see that there are 2 guides currently available. Companies can still apply for the 2020 program year if they have marketing initiatives that are taking place in the latter part of the year. But we've also opened up the applications for the 2021 program year. So depending on which year you're going to be applying for, choose the appropriate guide. But essentially, as a taxpayer-funded program, we really do follow a set of federal regulations. So we have defined the policies to protect you and the program's viability. The guide is up to date. It's an exhaustive resource that outlines all of these regulations and policies in clear and user-friendly language. And the FundMatch manager, Chloe Mesh, you will become very familiar with when you start your participation. She spent a lot of time on the 2021 guide to make sure that it was very clear and delineate any questions that you may have. But again, if you do have questions, the best thing to do is just ask. You know, you can contact me directly. If I don't know the answers, I will go ahead and connect you with our FundMatch team. They are ready to assist you. So make sure you become familiar with the guide and make sure you ask questions as you move forward. One thing to note, though, if you have there are some restrictions with FundMatch. And notably is there are certain country markets that you cannot seek reimbursements for, and those would be the federally prohibited countries. And that would be and I'm going to botch how I say this, but it's the Crimea region of the Ukraine, Cuba, Iran, North Korea, and Syria. And then there are some areas that are considered part of the domestic market, those U.S. territories and outlying areas that would not be eligible as well, which would be American Samoa, Federated States of Micronesia, Guam, Midway Islands, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. One thing to note with those U.S. territories and outlying areas, if for some reason you were at a point where you needed to, source a particular product that may not be within the continental USA or Hawaii or Alaska, you could always go to American Samoa. I don't know how feasible that would be, but you could source your ingredients from one of those U.S. territories or outlying areas, and that would make them eligible for the program as well. One of the really great things that we launched this last year, I believe, was this example claims that is available on our website. So when you start participating and you're going to be collecting all of these documentation to submit your claims into the office so we can reimburse you, it's good to have an example of what that looks like. So again, Chloe and her team put together a whole host of possible claims, or the most common claims that a company would be submitting into our office. So you can go ahead and click on those, and it'll provide really good guidance on how to make sure you're submitting all the necessary documentation. And then we do have some videos available on our website as well that kind of talk on a more light level of the FundMatch program. But I would highly recommend when you get to the claims process to take a look at this section, because I think it would be very helpful, especially if you're brand new to FundMatch. Now let's go ahead and talk about eligibility. So starting with company eligibility, you need to be a Western US-based company, so meaning headquartered in the WUSATA region. Then you need to be considered a small business according to SBA guidelines, which is typically under 500 employees, but it is based on your NAICS code. And then legally licensed, independently owned, and operating for at least 12 months, and then meet all product and packaging requirements, which we'll take a look at the next slide. So with your products, since we are funded through the Farm Bill, through the USDA Market Access Program, the products that you're promoting need to meet the 50% U.S. origin rule. So those products that are processed in the United States but not grown in the United States would not be eligible for reimbursements. Again, it's because we are supporting the farmer just on that processed product level. And then again, your products need to be agriculturally based, so meaning farmed, fished, or forested. And then your company, again, must have brand ownership. And if you do not have brand ownership of your product, then you need to have a sole agency agreement with the brand owner. And it's not saying that you are the sole representative of that product, but what it's allowing us to have and see is that that brand owner is giving you the authority to use Market Access Program funds to promote their product, in a particular country market. So, and then we have that special form that you'll need to complete if that is the situation for your business. And then your product needs to clearly be marked as a product of the USA. And I will say that this is probably the #1 reason for a denied claim, is that your products and your marketing material doesn't carry that appropriate U.S. origin statement, which we'll take a look at here on the next slide. And these are just examples of U.S. origin statements. There are some that may still be eligible that are not on this list. But examples would be, product of the USA, grown in America. If you are going to be using California, you just need to make sure that California is spelled out in its entirety. Oftentimes a abbreviation can be misinterpreted as a foreign country market. California is a good example, could be misinterpreted as Canada. And since we are a program to promote the export of U.S. goods, we want to make sure all of the products and labeling is associated with the United States, if that makes sense. So at this point, what I would like to do is take a pause, and if you notice, there is a Q&A button on your screen. If you want to go ahead and see if you can come up with some questions that I might be able to answer regarding eligibility, just go ahead and type it into that Q&A box. And if you can see my screen, it's right up at the top, kind of in the middle. And I'll just wait for a minute or two to see if any good questions come in, and we'll address those. No questions? Anybody? Oh, okay. Looks like we just received one. Any way to get support for duty-free stores or cruise ship exports, which are not particular country market but are considered export? That is a really, really fantastic question, and that is so outside of my knowledge base with FundMatch, and I do apologize, but what I definitely can do is I can get you connected with our FundMatch manager, Chloe Mesh, so that way she can provide guidance with that. My apologies for not being able to answer, but that is a good one. It's not one that I have ever run across before, so I will definitely look into that, and I will provide you an answer in the follow-up email. I don't know how, you don't happen to know that, do you, Josh?
No, but I mean, I think in general, duty-free and cruise ship are kind of considered domestic, so it becomes very difficult. But there's a lot of trade shows and now kind of virtual trade shows that kind of focus on kind of the duty-free sector specifically. But there is, again, this program does have a lot of flexibilities. And so depending on what that expense is, Lucy, that you're trying to seek reimbursement for, that's something that Chloe and the FundMatch team will be able to kind of walk you through the process with.
Thank you, Josh. And then I have a second question. If we sign up for a show that is canceled due to COVID, will there be refunds again for 2021? I'm not sure I quite understand your question, Linda. And if I understand correctly, I think I do understand, because I think we did do some refunding initially to help offset some of the expense with some of our companies. And I imagine it's going to be a day-by-day sort of decision-making process with our FundMatch team and USDA FAS to determine whether or not that will be the case for 2021. So again, it would be best to keep that open line of communication with Chloe Mesh, our FundMatch manager, so that way she can keep you apprised of the situation. And I hope I answered your question appropriately. So I don't see any questions regarding the actual eligibility side. So I'm going to go ahead and move forward, and then we'll take some more questions at the end of the presentation.
So, Monica, there was an important question that was raised, and I think it's always good to address as well, is what is the fee or cost to participate in WUSATA? And so I know that a lot of companies are always confused about what is, oh, I'm a WUSATA member. What does that mean? Is there a fee associated with that, et cetera? So if you can provide kind of clarity on what a My WUSATA account entails in terms of cost, what activities entail in terms of cost, and then what's the cost associated with FundMatch, I think would be very helpful for companies.
Absolutely. Now, part of that I will be addressing in a couple slides, but I'll give the kind of quick response to that. To have a My WUSATA account is completely free, and that gives you access to our export education at no cost to you. Now, with our Global Connect program, it's a pay-as-you-use sort of situation where you will register for the specific activities that you are interested in and only pay the registration fees associated with those activities. With our cost reimbursement program, there is an annual fee schedule that we have. There's an application fee when you're applying for the given program year of $250. And then there's a 6% admin fee associated as well based on your approved allocated amount. And again, this is all because we act as a nonprofit organization, and these are administrative fees to help us keep the cogs turning on our side as well. So is that a good question, answer, response, Josh?
Yes, perfect, thank you.
Okay, excellent. All right, well, thank you for your questions. I appreciate that. Let's go ahead and keep this going. So money, let's talk about the amount of money that you can request. So when in that first year you apply for the program, if you're completely brand new to exporting, the maximum amount that you can request is $25,000. Meaning you're spending $50,000 in those eligible international marketing expenses being reimbursed $2,500. The minimum amount that you can request is across the board annually is $2,500. Again, spending $5,000 being reimbursed $2,500. If you are an experienced exporter, you've had some exports to Canada or Mexico, and you feel pretty confident in the process, you can have a conversation with our FundMatch manager to increase that initial year to $50,000. Every year after your first year, that maximum amount will increase to $300,000. The reason we put those kind of parameters on the first year is just to help get you familiar with the program, with the process. We want to help you be successful in submitting that documentation, becoming familiar with the claims process. We want you to be as successful as possible. So that's kind of why we put that restraint in the first year. But then we open it up wide every year after that, and then you can take full advantage of that $300,000, which we hope you all will do because we like to give you money back. That is our goal. So some reimbursable expenses. The next two slides will go into some of the expenses that you can seek reimbursements for. Everything that we're going over through FundMatch today is available in the guide, so just know that You don't have to remember everything that I say. It's all going to be held within the guide. But one of the top things that our companies seek reimbursements for is their presence in exhibiting at domestic trade shows. In the back of the guide, you'll see that there is a handful of domestic trade shows that you can seek reimbursements for, and the types of expenses would include the trade show booth, marketing material that you have created for the show, shipment of your samples to the trade show. Travel is not included with domestic trade shows. However, when you go to those international trade shows, that's where you can seek reimbursements for your air travel, your hotel, your meals and incidental. So it's very helpful, in particular when you go to the international trade shows. With the freight and shipping, that is specifically for your samples. So for a potential customer, again, if you're shipping it to a domestic or an international trade show or one of the trade missions, so you can seek reimbursements there. Promotional giveaways for when you're at the trade show. So if you want to give away one of those little squishy balls or pens that have your logo on it. And here's some more in-store demonstrations. So keep a note, everything on this page is going to be in that international marketplace. So the in-store demonstrations, in-store displays. If you have an international trade seminar, so you go to, say, Anuga in Germany, and you want to take out a hotel room, and you're going to, or like a conference room, excuse me, and you want to educate foreign buyers about your product, and you hire a chef to come in and lead a seminar showing how to use your product in a multitude of different prepared meals. That would be an eligible expense. Translation, when you have materials that are translated, those services can be eligible. One of the things that's really starting to take off, especially given the shift to more virtual, is companies are starting to do web development to target a certain country market. So say Japan is of interest to you and you're going to create a new page to target the Japanese market. That development could be eligible for reimbursements as well. Again, all of this is housed within the guide. So make sure you only need to pay attention to the types of activities that you are going to be carrying out. I would recommend reading all the way through the guide at some point, so you're familiar. Maybe there's an activity that you may not have considered that might be a good promotion for your company. But then just become very familiar with the sections that pertain to the activities that you will be seeking those reimbursements for. So let's look at our annual program timeline. So we do run on a calendar year. The MAP year runs from January 1st through December 31st. We do open our applications for the coming year August 1st, so you'll know that the 2021 is already available for you to go ahead and apply for. And then throughout that calendar year, companies are going to carry out their activities and collect all of that necessary documentation and submit your claims into our office within 90 days after the activity is ended. And then just know that at the end of the program year, any of your claims for that end of that, let me rephrase that, by the end of February, we will have to have all of the claims from the previous year into our office. So that's the last day to submit your claims into our office, because we need time to process them before the end of our year closes, make sure that we get all of our necessary funding tied up, if you will. And then again, at the end of the year, we'll have you complete that survey. Again, it's to document our program results. And it is a mandatory survey. It's part of the FundMatch contract. But what it does is it enables us to be able to more effectively fulfill our responsibilities. But again, like I mentioned earlier, the results are shared with FAS to help keep the FundMatch program viable at that federal level. So let's kind of talk about the application. Application is pretty straightforward. So when you log into your WUSATA account, again, where you land on your dashboard and it says, welcome back, so-and-so, there's a tile that says FundMatch. Simply click on that tile and then choose the year that you wish to apply for. So again, this year, right now, you'll have 2020 and 2021 available for you to apply for. So choose the appropriate year where you're going to be carrying out those eligible activities. And it's going to walk you through step by step. It's very user-friendly. It's a question-answer sort of situation. You're going to put in your company information. You're going to put in your marketing plan. Your marketing plan is going to include all of those eligible activities that you want to seek reimbursements for, and you're going to, if you don't know exactly what the amount is, do your best guess. So if you plan to attend a particular trade show, but the registration hasn't been made available yet, so just give a rough estimate, but be as close as you possibly can. Once you're through with your marketing plan, then you're going to put in the product information, so the products that you're going to be promoting using the FundMatch funding. One thing to note is your approval date. Your approval date is very important. Only the activities and materials that are created after your approval date are going to be eligible for reimbursements. Note, you can incur an expense before your approval date. Again, back to the trade show as an example. Some of those international trade shows, you have to secure your booth space, anywhere from 10 to 12 months in advance. So your expense may have already occurred, but as long as the activity hasn't occurred before your approval date, you're good to go. So if you apply between August 1st and December 31st for the coming year, your approval date will be January 1st as long as your application is complete. If there is any missing documentation for your application, we will definitely make sure to reach out to you to secure all that information. But then your approval date will be based on the month that the first of the month that your application is found to be approved. So, for example, if you applied for 2020 this month, but we don't get all of the necessary supporting documentation until the middle of September, your approval date will jump back to September 1st. And I hope that makes sense. And if it doesn't, please just reach out to me. But again, just know that it's a very straightforward process with the application, and you will, again, have that application fee of $250 when you submit your application. Our FundMatch manager, Chloe, is the one who's going to review that. If you have any questions as you move through the application process, reach out to Chloe or her team. There's Diana, Aleftina, and Megan, and they're happy to walk you through the application process as well. You can always schedule a time to discuss with them your marketing plan before you apply to see if it even makes sense for you to apply at that time. Maybe it's something that you just wait because it is uncertain times right now. If there's trade shows that are, it's on the fence whether or not they're going to be moving forward, there's no reason to apply immediately. You can apply maybe a month prior to your activity. Let Chloe know for sure, and she will work with you to make sure that you're approved and ready to go for your activity. So there's no urgency. So looking at part of the application is this calculation sheet that you will also be asked to complete and submit to us. And this is just, again, to delineate for us to make sure that your products do meet that 50% U.S. ag ingredients. One thing to note, you do not include water or packaging in this calculation. And then another thing to note is that minerals and salts are not considered an agricultural product, so they cannot be used to meet the 50% requirement. Again, if you have questions about filling out this particular form, let us know. We can help walk you through the process. So kind of a high-level look at the FundMatch process is you're going to submit that application electronically, and there is a packet that you'll print out and physically mail into our office for Chloe to review, which is going to include your labels. She's going to want to review your labels. There's going to be a certification statement that you will sign and submit as well. And then once Chloe receives that, she's going to review it, and she'll communicate with you all throughout the process to make sure you know where you are in the scope of things. And then once she approves it, you are going to receive that allocation notice via email to review. And once you say, okay, you're going to be receiving the contract via your dashboard under that FundMatch program tile to sign and submit. And at that point, that's when you will be invoiced for the 6% non-refundable admin fee. So we only collect that portion once you are approved. The $250 application fee is submitted at the time of the application. Again, it's non-refundable, so just make sure that you know you have activities that you're going to be conducting before you apply for the program, because we don't want to make money off of you. That's not our goal. Again, with requesting funding, make sure that you err on the side of being conservative when you're requesting funding because of that 6% admin fee. For example, if you're approved for $25,000, the admin fee is going to be $1,500. So just be mindful when you're requesting funding, only building into your marketing plan what you know for sure that you're going to be carrying out, knowing that you can always come back to us at a later time and request additional funding. It's through what we call the amendment phase. So we know things open up throughout the year. So maybe you met with a new distributor at Expo West and they're really excited about your product and they want to do a marketing initiative for you in Canada. By all means, we want to help support you with that. So just make that call to Chloe. She can walk you through the process for adding additional funding. You will pay a 6% on that, only that additional amount, so it won't be 6% on the whole again, so just know that moving forward. But just be conservative as you're requesting funding. Again, we don't want you leaving money on the table and paying unnecessary fees as you move forward. But once you get that go-ahead from Chloe to start conducting your eligible and promotional activities, just recommend that you make sure to pay attention to the section in the FundMatch guide that calls out all of the necessary documentation needed to submit your claim, and that is all highlighted in the guide. When you start flipping through it, you get to the domestic trade shows. It's going to have a side on the left that's going to say what's eligible. It's going to have a side on the right that would be ineligible. The next page is going to show a delineated I keep using that word. I stick with words occasionally, and it's not the right one. But there's going to be a sequence of all of the necessary documentation that you need to submit to receive your reimbursements. You can always go over that with our FundMatch experts prior to the activity to make sure it's clear, all of the necessary documentation that is needed. And then you're going to mail that into our office. So all of the necessary documentation, there's also a form available online that you're going to mail in as well. We'll get to that in just a few moments. And once you submit your claims, we're going to review it, and we'll get you those reimbursements. And then again, at the end of the program year, you're going to complete that survey like I mentioned. So this process is annual. So every year you want to come in and take advantage of FundMatch. You'll have the application fee of $250, the 6% admin fee. You'll get that contract through Chloe, conduct your activities, and then complete the survey. So again, if you have questions following this webinar, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself. And Chloe also wanted me to make sure that you can, that I tell you that you can contact her directly as well. She's more than happy to connect with you individually, so that way you can get even more information from her as you move forward. Now, looking at the reimbursement process, again, it's pretty straightforward. All of the claim forms that you will need are available on our website under FundMatch Important Forms, and you're going to submit a claim for each activity in each country market that you're carrying out. There's a claim form and an expense summary sheet. When we receive the claim in, we're going to log it and flag it for review. They are reviewed in the order that we receive them, so there may be several claims ahead of yours. If we do need additional documentation or clarification, we make sure to reach out so that way we can secure that information. But we do want to stay within that 90-day window. It's very crucial for us because we do have a lot of claims that are coming in. But we also find that companies, it's easier to find that documentation in a shorter time frame. The more time that passes, it seems to become a little bit more problematic to secure the necessary documentation. But after we finish reviewing the claim and we approve it, then we're going to request a batch of claims to be paid through the USDA FAS. So we don't have the funds here. It's held at the federal bank, the CCC. And there are times of the year when they're going to be faster than others, but as soon as they reimburse us, we reimburse the companies directly. To give you a time frame, from the time you submit your claim to the time you would receive a reimbursement, on average is between 12 and 16 weeks. But that can be varied depending on the volume of claims and then just different types of times of the year, it's going to be a little busier for us. So some of the windows where we receive a large number of claims will be 90 days after Expo West. That's a lot of our companies attend that trade show, or Gulf Food is another example. And then some claims are just going to be a little bit more difficult than others, and that can slow things down. But we do work very diligently to review and process the claims as quickly and accurately as we can. And we have a tool available on our website. So when you do log into your My WUSATA account and go to the FundMatch tab, the program year, and then the claim status and the claim number, you can find the claims coordinator who is handling your particular claim, and you can reach out to them directly. But I guarantee you they are going to be in communication with you. They are very communicative. They want to make sure that you get your full reimbursement. So you probably won't ever need to use this, but on the off chance that you hadn't received any communication from them, this way you would know who to contact directly regarding your specific claim. And just some tips to help you be successful in the claims process. Make sure your forms are filled out properly. Make sure that you're communicating with our staff as you move forward if there's any questions regarding your claims and necessary documentation. I can't stress this enough. Communication with our team is going to be vital as you move forward through the program. They really want to be helpful. They want to make sure things are clear for you. You can also, I have this on the next slide, but you can always set up a time to review your marketing plan. I believe I mentioned this earlier with our FundMatch coordinator. So you talk about your marketing plan, go ahead and talk about the claims and process and the documentation that is required so we can get you your reimbursements. They want to help you. We want you to be successful. Reading and referring to the guide is going to be very helpful. I know we all cringe when we think of guides or manuals or anything of this sort, but I definitely recommend at least reading it once and then again becoming very familiar with the section that is pertinent to your marketing initiatives. And then again, just contacting us directly if you have questions. One thing that I was going to mention earlier, and I'm glad that there is a bullet point on the slide here, but knowing that you can involve your importers and distributors in this process is really fantastic as well, because we can reimburse them directly for any promotional activities that they're going to be carrying out on your behalf. And if you don't have any importers or distributors yet, you can use this as a negotiation tool. They like to hear that you have a pool of funding that you can easily have access to help promote your products in that international market. And again, Chloe would be a very good person to connect with once you start this process, and she can help walk you through that and how we can actually pay them directly so it doesn't have to go through you. Again, they like to have that as well.
So if I could add on to that, Monica, I think it's really one of the points of this whole program is to definitely make U.S. companies, U.S. businesses competitive on an international front. And I think the opportunity with this federal program to be able to provide cost reimbursement to some of your distributors, importers, distributors, in terms of the advertising that they're doing for your products or the promotional displays that they're doing for their products helps to bring down, which are typically expensive costs for U.S. products in foreign markets. So it helps to hopefully level that playing field. And the WUSATA FundMatch program, when combined with other programs offered by SBA or the Export-Import Bank, provide you the opportunity to give financing up to 30, 60, 90 days as well. So it's a wide variety of toolkits that you can put together to be able to use to successfully engage and increase sales with some of your foreign customers or engage with new customers.
Thank you, Josh. So one of the most common questions we get asked by companies who are new to the FundMatch program is, why do we require so much paperwork? And believe me when I say we are required to review every single piece of paper that you submit into our office. And we go through an internal audit as well through USDA, FAS. And again, it's just because we're acting as stewards of taxpayer funds that's funding this program through the USDA Market Access Program. So it really is our responsibility to protect our participating companies, our member states, of course, and then the taxpayers ultimately who are funding the program. So we were actually one of the first MAP cooperators with the fraud prevention program, and it really serves as a model for other cooperators as well. But ultimately, boils down to, we ask that you conduct your business in accordance with all of the laws and regulations of the country where you're carrying out your activity, and then in accordance with all of the applicable U.S. federal, state, local laws and regulations, and then with our program regulations as well. Last thing we want to do is see a company dropped from our programs because of some oversight. We don't want to see that happen. Really, at the end of the day, it's our goal to maintain and enhance the reputation of our organization, our participants, and then the industry as a whole. And it's what allows us to share our success stories. So this is always my favorite part of presentations, when I can share with you some of the successes that were realized by participating companies. The first company that we are going to look at is we have JC Cakes with their product Flapjack, and they are based in Westminster, Colorado, and they've been participating in our program since 2014. They utilized all three program tracks, the Learn, Connect, Compete, but the Global Connect, Expert Education, FundMatch. So in particular with FundMatch, they used FundMatch in 2017 to attend Expo Antad trade show in New Mexico. While they were there, they met a distributor from Iceland, and now their product is in a grocery store chain in Iceland, which is pretty awesome. They also use FundMatch to attend some of those domestic trade shows, like I mentioned, that are eligible for reimbursements. They went to Expo West. While they were there, they met a distributor from Saudi Arabia, and this resulted in their products getting on the shelves in a Safeway and Holland & Barrett's in Saudi Arabia. And I guess Holland & Barrett's is one of the world's leading health and wellness retailers, and it's the largest in Europe. So that was a huge step forward for them. And they also attended the 2017 Summer Fancy Food Show, and that's where they met an Indonesian distributor for the first time. And then they met them later at Expo West, and that's where they were able to confirm that they were on the same track. And now they're doing the paperwork to move forward with business in Indonesia. So that's pretty fantastic for this company. And if you ever go to, say, Expo West and you happen upon them, Jeffrey Wanamaker is fantastic. He will tell you how they've utilized FundMatch and how successful they've been, and he is very he welcomes the communication with other companies. When we walk the trade show floor and we see him, he's like, yeah, send companies over to me. I'll tell them all how to use it. So don't be shy and make sure to introduce yourself if you get an opportunity. This next company is relatively new to WUSATA. This is Bike Fuel. They are based in Oregon. I just found out recently they're right down the street from where I live, so that's kind of cool. I didn't know that. But they started participating in FundMatch in 2018, and with their participation, they were able to increase their sales in Kuwait and launch sales into Canada. And they've also seen an overall increase in their international sales because of their participation by 35%, which is amazing. How they used the funding in 2018 was they attended Natural Products Expo West, and again, this is where they met with that Canadian distributor for the first time and then reconnected with their buyer from Kuwait. They also used the funding, and I did have I apologize, I focused very much on the trade show side in these success stories, but here's a place where it shows the versatility of FundMatch. They were able to invest in new packaging for Canada, which requires label changes. They needed to include French and English on their label, so we were able to reimburse them for that expense. And they say that thanks to the growth in their export markets, they were able to hire new employees and increase the purchase of their U.S. grown ingredients. And I really like that point, is because it goes beyond their bottom line. It shows that they're helping grow their community as well, which I think ultimately is what we want to see happen in the market access program. So I hope the information that I provided today gave you a better understanding of how to take advantage of all of WUSATA programs, how to take advantage specifically of the FundMatch program. Again, please don't hesitate to reach out to me directly if you have questions following this webinar. Right now, if you want to go ahead and I can try and answer some questions now. Josh and I are more than welcome to field a few questions, so please Oh, yes, I can definitely provide, we had a question, can I provide the slideshow? I can definitely make sure to pass that along to all of the people present today, so I'm more than happy to. But are there any other questions that anybody can think of at this time?
So Monica, we did have a kind of question earlier, and it's a great question, talking about bulk products. So what if I'm a bulk rice supplier, for instance? Am I eligible to participate in the FundMatch program?
As long as you have a brand. We definitely have companies. Nut companies are a really good example. They sell bulk nuts, whether it's almonds or walnuts or whatever the case, as long as on the tote or the gigantic bag that you are promoting has a farm name or a brand on it, then it would be eligible, yes.
So, and what about if I have a private label that I'm working with my foreign distributor with? Is that something that's eligible as well in terms of promotions associated with it?
Understanding that we work with private label companies as well, and that would be eligible for reimbursements.
Perfect. We do have a question about, is the INC, the International Tree Nut Congress, available for reimbursement? There is a complete list of reimbursable kind of domestic trade shows that is provided in the FundMatch guide, and I know that INC also comes to a domestic side, but also there is international, and that is available for reimbursement, yes.
There was a really good question here. My company is exporting hay, and we want to advertise our hay in Korea by newspaper and magazine. Do you think our product is eligible for reimbursement program? Absolutely. As long as your hay is grown from within the United States, you can seek reimbursements for those promotions in the newspaper and magazine, of course. And another question, this one is in Dubai. What is the link? Oh, okay, that must be INC. So we have in our FundMatch guide, in the back of the guide, and I can provide in follow-up a link to the guide for everyone as well, but in the back of the guide there is that a complete list of the approved domestic trade shows where you can receive reimbursements. There is a list of international trade shows as well, but I will say that that is not a all-encompassing list. There's no way we could put all of the international trade shows that would be eligible for reimbursements. The note to keep in mind is if it is an eligible show, it would meet this criteria, which would be at least 30% of the other exhibitors would have agricultural products. So if you're not sure about that, call in and talk to one of our FundMatch team members, and they can help you delineate whether or not that particular international trade show would be eligible for reimbursements. But our international list in the back of the FundMatch guide is not complete, so don't hesitate to reach out to us if there's a show that you don't see on there, and we can help you decide whether or not that would be an eligible show. Okay. So how does WUSATA determine the maximum size of a company that could be eligible? We have 10 agribusiness facilities spread across California, but altogether we're nearly 1,500 people total. Would that qualify? That's a really fantastic question. So we look at the size standard tables through the SBA to determine eligibility, and that's based on your NAICS code, that North American Industries Classification Code. And I've seen numbers between 500 and 1,500 for eligibility. You have the benefit, which we didn't touch on during the presentation, but there's a limited time funding source called ATP, the Agricultural Trade Promotion, which allows 3 times the SBA standard. So you could potentially, if you did not qualify for the small business size, if you didn't meet that qualification, you could still apply for FundMatch through this other funding source called ATP. And that would just be a conversation that you have with Chloe to determine where that cutoff is. Again, I'm not sure what your NAICS code is, so we'd have to determine what that is and then go to the SBA size standard table and see where you fall on that table, and then make that determination whether or not you would be in the MAP program or the ATP program.
And to kind of follow up with that, sometimes it's not the number of employees you have, but the number of sales on an annual basis as well. So again, it depends specifically to the company itself and looking at it to the next code that Monica mentioned. But I think it's definitely something to reach out to Chloe with the FundMatch team to see if there's other opportunities through the other program that she mentioned that also is eligible for FundMatch.
That was a good question. Thank you.
And I can't underscore enough about what a great opportunity this program is. And I think for companies that have never participated with WUSATA or are still focusing kind of domestically, to be aware of what is the potential that's out there, I think is very critical, because a lot of times, you know, the pre-COVID world, participating at trade shows, you're getting inquiries from Canadian buyers or Mexican buyers about the products that you have that they're interested in importing. And if you're going to start making that switch to exporting a product to Canada, you're going to have to change your label to include French on it, or you're going to have to put a sticker on it to have French language on it. And to understand that a portion of that cost, if it's required to meet the market, is eligible as part of this program for reimbursement, I think is a critical step in terms of saying, you know what, I can do that, or at least I now know where the resources are. And a lot of what we spoke about today is definitely internationally focused, but some of the big things that Monica mentioned as well are the domestic trade shows. So the Fancy Food Show, Expo West, and that's both the East Coast and West Coast versions are eligible for reimbursement. And I know that in our new COVID time that some virtual trade shows are eligible, but that's on a case-by-case basis domestically in terms of participation. And Chloe and the FundMatch team can provide guidance. But I mean, that's a great tool in terms of being able to kind of assist kind of on that international expansion, because those domestic shows cater to foreign buyers.
Excellent. Well, again, I appreciate everyone's time today. I hope that you found this useful. Let me know again if there is anything that I can help you to be successful in the program. Again, providing introductions, making sure that you're well connected with the FundMatch team. I will definitely be sending out a follow-up email to everyone with those links to the USDA website. Email me back if you'd like a copy of the Euromonitor. I will definitely make sure to get that to you as well for your products. And again, I'm happy to help. I'm here to support you and help you be successful in our programs, whether it's Global Connect, Export Education, or FundMatch. I am really wanting you all to be successful. I want to help you through this process. I'm happy to do so. So again, thank you everyone for your time today, and hopefully we'll be connecting soon.
Perfect. Again, thank you everyone. It was a pleasure. We look forward to working with you, and please feel free to reach out to myself or Monica or anyone on the team to kind of see how best we can assist you. Thank you again.